Good morning. Convening our Health and Homelessness Committee. Today is, Gavel does not want to stay. Today is Wednesday, February 8, 8:30 a.m. It is a busy day at the Capitol. It is the triple referral filing deadline. So lots is going to be happening, and we're going to be moving very quickly and into other rooms with lots of joint hearings, as well as decision-making at 11:30 a.m. Members, let's get started. First up on our agenda is House Bill 1302 relating to noise pollution. First up, we have comments from the Department of Health.
Good morning, Chair Belatti. Good morning, Vice Chair Takinouchi and Representative Kobayashi. My name is Sean Haruno. I'm with the Department of Health Noise Section. We stand by our testimony, and if you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you. We have support from Denise Boys-Vert, individual. Testimony in support, Kim Jorgensen. Testimony in support, Catherine Davis. Testimony in support, Robert Finley. Testimony in support, Michael Misher. We also have testimony in opposition from Unite Here. Come forward.
Hi, thank you, committee. My name is Jolie Tokusato. Unite Here Local 5 represents working people throughout Hawaii, including hotel, food service, and healthcare industries. Unite Here Local 5 is opposed to HB 1302. We have submitted and stand by our written testimony, but I would like to emphasize that this bill is flawed and may have unintended consequences. For instance, I look around this room and I'm sure there's 30 feet in here, and if my cell phone rang after 7 o'clock, anybody in this room could probably hear it, and I'd be, oh my God, I'd be in trouble. So, therefore we ask that you defer this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tokusato. Any other testifiers in the room? Any testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none, members, this is a measure that is going to be, we're going to do decision-making at 11:30 a.m., but because this is a triple referral, I do want to just let you know what my inclinations are. My inclinations is to pass this out with an HD1. What I'd like to do is, if there's that language in there about the distance, let's blank that out. Also, I'm going to recommend tech amendments from HMSO, a defective date of June 30th, 3000, a blank appropriation amount, and to note in the committee report for judiciary to consider if this is better appropriately placed into Chapter 7, 11-1101, pursuant to what Department of Health's comments were. Okay, members, that's going to be my inclination. We won't take the vote now, but I did want to communicate that, especially to our drafter, who is going to be working on this measure this afternoon. Members, next up, any questions or concerns? Any questions for the testifiers? Seeing none, members, House Bill 1201, again, another noise pollution bill, this time related to helicopters. First up is we have comments from the Department of Health.
Good morning again. I'm Sean, Department of Health Noise Section, and we stand by our written testimony.
Thank you. We had testimony comments from the Attorney General, Ms. Lopez, or her designee.
Good morning, Chair Belatti, members of the committee. My name is Wade Hargrove. I'm a Deputy Attorney General. I'm here on behalf of the Attorney General's office. And, our comments are oriented around the constitutional question of the preemptive effect of federal law in this area. We would just note that our inclination is that it is highly likely to be challenged given the commercial interest involved, and the federal law is unusually clear with respect to the preemptive effect, that it's designed not only to regulate the air traffic control that we think of as FAA, and of course they regulate the safety of aircraft, as we all are familiar with in general, but also the health and safety aspect, which is they are obligated by federal law to incorporate EPA's concerns with respect to noise specifically. So just leave you with that, and of course I'm available to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. In opposition, Jack Harder Helicopters. In support, Cheryl Burkhart. In support, Jay Ashman. We have testimony from HAI and AOPA. And we also have, I believe that's any other testifiers? Any testifiers via Zoom? Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take up the next measure. Relating to ambulances, House Bill 1245, so this is a request for an ambulance for Central Maui. First up, members, we have comments from Department of Health.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Chair Bellotti. I'm Dr. Al Bronstein, Branch Chief for EMS, Department of Health, and we will stand on our written testimony. Thank you very much, and we're here if there are questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have testimony in support from Maui County Council Chair Alice Lee, possibly in Zoom. No. Okay, that's testimony in support. In support, Victor Ramos. In support, William Bailey. In support, Tiffany Light. Oh, go ahead. Oh, Mr. Bailey. William Bailey.
William.
Good morning. Good morning. Speedy Bailey. I'm with AMR. I'm the regional director. Have been doing EMS for 45 years plus. Thank you for this opportunity. We're in strong support of this measure. We have been around building the EMS system for Maui for 40 years, starting with 4 ambulances. We now have 10 and 1 helicopter. We last met as a cabinet under Dr. Bronstein probably 7 years ago, and as a result of that, we had a recommendation for 3 ambulance units in 2018, which were passed. Thank you. That was for Kauai County, Honolulu, and the Big Island. Maui was deferred at that time. Here we are, 5 years later, the deferral coming back. So we're in strong support for this. I'd like to also say that American Medical Response is fully staffed to do another ambulance unit for Maui County as needed. We've been fully staffed for my 40-year tenure. We're very proud of that. Even during the COVID years, we never shuttered any ambulance services. In fact, the state asked us to stand up more services, and we were able to do that. We know this is very challenging times to get healthcare workers. We're very proud of the fact that both Maui and Kauai are fully staffed, and we've been providing services consistently, on point, on time, on budget. And we could do this initiative without any delay or undue costs in extraordinary overtime. Available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. We have testimony in support from Tiffany Lightfoot. Testimony in support from Mona Arsenis. Comments from Douglas Van Groenewald. Testimony in support by Kapena Hill. Members, audience, any members or any testifiers in the audience? Seeing none, any testifiers via Zoom? Seeing none, members, any questions? Go ahead.
For Department of Health, do you still have that committee that prioritizes which areas need ambulances?
Yes, we still have the cabinet, yes.
Where is this Central Maui on that prioritization?
And the last time we reviewed this was to happen next time. This was to happen, not at the time we added the last 3 new ambulances, but this would be after that in priorities.
I'm sorry. So this is on the priority list.
Yes.
For what do you mean by next time?
Next time we met to discuss it.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Bronstein, you can stay there. I just want to note, in your testimony, you said it's the cost would be 1.6 million and not 1.5 million.
Correct.
Is that just for the purchase of the vehicle?
No, that is, that includes the obtaining the vehicle, whether it's purchased or leased, and the staffing, and the medications, and the equipment. And it used to be 1.5 million, but with cost of living increase and collective bargaining, prices went up 6.1%. So that's how we arrived at the 1.6 million. Arrived at the 1.6 million.
So that amount represents both the capital to pay for the ambulances and then the ongoing operating expenses, if this is to be put into the budget and the base budget.
Yes, ma'am.
For
This
the
would be-
department.
Yes, correct. And this would be annual, need to be added to the base budget every year to maintain this additional ambulance.
Okay, is there any cost sharing of the ongoing expenses with the County of Maui?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? Members, because this is a triple referral, I did want to give you my inclinations. So my recommendations for this bill will be to blank out the appropriation blank out the appropriation number, place into the committee report the $1.6 million appropriation, had a defective date of June 30th, 3,000, and then also note for the Finance Committee and the CPC, the next committees, to consider whether or not there can be a cost sharing with the county for the ongoing expenses. As we have, as the House has been looking at the ways in which we can make the cost sharing more beneficial, and that it is both a county and a state responsibility. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns?
What about this amendment?
Thank you for pointing that out, and also including the amendment from
DOH.
Department of Health related to providing through a private contract. Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on to the next bill, House Bill 1255. This is our SPURB bill for West Maui Hospital and Medical Center. Members, we have testimony first from the Department of Health. Comments? Testimony in support, Chair Alice Lee, Maui County Council, if present via Zoom. If not, moving on next to Victor Ramos in support. Oh, wait, my apologies, members. It's 12:55. Our first comments was Director Salaveria from the Department of Budget and Finance. So strike that, not comments from Department of Health. Comments from Budget and Finance. Now testimony in support from Chair Alice Lee. Testimony in support from Brian Hoyle, President, West Maui Hospital Foundation, via Zoom.
I'm here.
Wonderful.
Hi
Thank
there.
you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. I've submitted written testimony, but I wanted to make myself available for questions by the committee in terms of any of the aspects of this request. But in a nutshell, this is for a new critical access hospital in West Maui. We have certificate of need approval, and we're now planning for a 5-bed critical access hospital that will provide 24-hour emergency care, have operating rooms, radiology, pharmacy, and also laboratory services. This project has been in process for a number of years. We received the certificate of need in 2009. We're now asking for assistance in a special purpose revenue bond to finance or pay for the infrastructure that will be required for the hospital, including equipment costs. We're seeking other financing to provide the financing for the remainder of the construction of the hospital. So this $20 million ask is for the infrastructure and costs related to the development and completion of the infrastructure and equipment and design for the new hospital. So again, I've submitted written testimony. If there are questions, I'm available.
Thank you, Mr. Hoyle. Joanne Weiner, former Maui Council member and also Vice President of West Maui Hospital, in support. We have in support Will Carone, in support Tamara Paulton, in support Malia Shimomura, in support Robert Walker Schroeder, in support Kalea Dean, and in support Judith Hugaz. We also have testimony in support from the Maui Chamber of Commerce and testimony in support from Douglas Van Gronewald. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering your name. Any testifiers in the audience? Any testifiers via Zoom? Members, any questions? Go ahead, Representative Kobayashi.
For West Maui Hospital Foundation, have you approached County of Maui for a SPURB? Because they have the ability to provide that.
We have requested and received a approval for a resolution from the County of Maui for the support of the hospital. We've had the bill here, as you see, sponsored in the House and also in the Senate for the special purpose revenue bond. The intent here is to have the state approve the special purpose revenue bond and then have the county guarantee it. So we're hoping both county and state can work together on the development, or however this bond is to be presented.
So you have not approached County of Maui for a SPURB?
Not directly, no. We've asked for resolution in support of the project, which they have done.
What's the total cost of the hospital?
Total cost will be $38 million. That includes the construction, the infrastructure, and all the equipment to complete. It'll be a 5-bed hospital, about 30,000 square feet, located on existing property in Kaanapali.
Okay. And the $38 million is, includes the $20 million.
Correct. And we're also
Thank you.
applying for and have made preliminary application to the USDA for a portion of the hospital construction financing. We've also made requests, and Maui County approved for, again, consideration, a grant and aid request, which was for $7 million, again, for infrastructure and equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hoyle, for joining us. Next up, we have, okay, let me, on House Bill 1255, members, my recommendation is going to be to add a defective date of June 30th, 3000 to be able to continue the conversation on this measure. Okay, any questions, comments, or concerns? All right, seeing none. House Bill 982 relating to funding for the Department of the Attorney General Tobacco Enforcement Unit. Members, first up, we have testimony and support from the Department of Health.
Good morning, Chairman. The Department of Health stands in support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have testimony with comments from the Department of Taxation.
Chair, Vice Chair, committee members, I believe our testimony for the Department of Taxation, I believe our testimony is going to be standing support.
Thank you.
Comments, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yes, strongly supports.
Yes, we stand by our testimony. Thank you.
Okay. We have now from American Cancer Society, Cynthia Au in support. Testimony from the Attorney General's office. Yes, support, strong support.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Chelsea Okamoto. I'm with the Tobacco Enforcement Unit as part of the Department of Attorney General. Thank you first for hearing this bill. My supervisor, Richard Stacy, submitted the testimony, and he fully intended to be here this morning. He had a medical emergency, so he deeply apologizes and sends his regards and has sent me in his stead. Our department is in strong support of this bill. Our Tobacco Enforcement Unit is primarily funded through cigarette tax revenues through the tax stamp fee. And in recent years, we've seen those revenues plummet. Just last fiscal year, we've seen a 12.7% decline in revenues to our special enforcement fund, and we anticipate that this downward trend is going to be just as drastic in the future. And so the goal of this bill is to stabilize funding for our unit, and we ask that the committee pass this measure. I'm available for questions, and if the questions go above my pay grade, I'll make sure they get answered for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Testimony and support from Eric Abe, Hawaii Primary Care Association. Testimony and support from Hawaii Public Health Institute, Ms. Peggy Mearswa.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We'll stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments from Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Mr. Tom Yamachika via Zoom.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation. It should be no surprise, members of the committee, that the tobacco tax is working. It's there to be a financial disincentive against smoking, and it's intended to help people stop. It's working, therefore, you're getting less revenue year after year. This is no surprise. So if you really want to stabilize the funding for this activity that's being funded by the tobacco tax, our suggestion is to find another means of financing it. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yamachika. Wonderful to see you here in this committee. We have testimony in opposition from Volcano Vape Shops, Mr. Scott Razak, via Zoom. We have testimony in opposition from Riley Legaspi, present in the room or via Zoom. No. Testimony in opposition, Travis Pagano. Testimony in opposition, Dejen. Testimony in opposition, Naomi Moronaka. Members, sorry, there's numerous others, individual testimonies, all in opposition. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers via Zoom? Members, seeing none. Members, any questions? Okay, members, my recommendation on this one is, which is a triple, is going to be to defect the date to June 30th, 3,000. Blank out the money amount on page 2, and note in the committee request that note in the committee report that the request is for in excess of $750,000. Okay, so let's continue the conversation on this one. And any technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style identified by HMSO. That's going to be my recommendations, members. Questions or concerns? All right, seeing none, that is the last bill on our 8:30 a.m. agenda. So we will reconvene for decision making on all of these measures at 11:30 a.m. All right, members, we are adjourned. Recess. Good morning. Convening our 9:45 a.m. hearing on the Committee on Health and Homelessness in the House of Representatives. Today is Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, and it is one of our big triple referral deadlines. So this is a very busy day. Members, first up, House Bill 1081 relating to penalties for licensed care homes. First up, we have support from the Department of Health.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Keith Ridley, Chief of the Office of Healthcare Assurance on behalf of the Director of Health. We stand in strong support of this admin bill, and essentially this bill is a housekeeping measure to deconflict a couple of points in statute. This bill would repeal HRS 321-486.3 to avoid conflict with HRS 321-20. The department believes that $1,000 per day or up to $1,000 per day is a more appropriate remedial approach to prevent unlicensed operators from profiting at the hands of vulnerable and frail elderly. And we stand on the remainder of our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. In support, Martha Randolph. I believe this is the Kapuna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. In the room or in Zoom, seeing no one here. Josephine Pasqua, individual, in support. Leilani Domingo, individual, in support. Members, we have testimony from Adult Foster Home Care Association of Hawaii, strongly support. Daisy Ganan, also Maribel Tan, in support. Daisy Ganan Kikal, in support. Helen Sapla, in support. In support, Mercy Esteban, Betty Veracruz, Mari Angeline de Maulio, Janeth Dulig. In support, Karina Ocampo, and comments, Myung Suk. In support, Roma Magne, and in support, Waynet Gaylord, ARCA President. Waynet Gaylord, ARCA President. Members, audience members, any late testifiers?
Good morning, Rep. Bellotti. I'm Maribel Tan,
Go
President
ahead.
of the Adult Foster Home. Maribel Tan, President of the Adult Foster Home Care Association of Hawaii, and also with the coalition of the Community Care Foster Family Homes presidents. We strongly support this bill, HB 1081, which clarifies the penalty to be assessed on any person who intentionally operates a care facility without a certificate or license. First and foremost, we applaud the respective department and agencies on their efforts over the last 2 years to investigate and enforce the much-needed law against the operations of these care facilities without the appropriate certificate or license. The fact that their efforts have netted over $2.5 million in fines and the closure of 221 non-licensed homes proves there's a problem and need for the stiffer penalties. Penalties of up to 1,000 or should be more per day are needed because illegal care facilities sometimes receive up to 8,000 per month or higher. With 5 residents, and illegal care facilities can take up to 40,000 per month. The penalty must be sufficient, serious to deter illegal activity. We have heard some facilities do not care about the penalty because it is still profitable for them to operate. So they can just pay the fine and continue operation. And I stand by the rest of my testimonies. Thank you, Rep. Bellotti and everyone, and we're hoping for your support for HB 108. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tan. Any other testifiers in Zoom? Any late testifiers in the room? Members, any questions? Representative Mizuno, Chair Mizuno, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Bellotti. Could I have Maribel Tan back up on Zoom, please? Had a question for AFA President Maribel Tan.
Yes, Rep. Mizuno.
So President Tan, I know we talked, you represent about 750 community care foster family homes. You and your members have mentioned to us numerous times that they charge onward from $8,000, some even $15,000 per client. to stay at these unlicensed, uncertified, illegal care homes. They make a ton of money, they're not paying any taxes, and at the end of the day, when that person they spend down their money, the private pay, they've been paying $15,000 a month, and after a couple of years, they've spent down all their life savings. They end up going on Medicaid. So what I'm hearing is that these illegal care homes get as much money as they can from those private pay clients. Once they spend on all their money, they kick them out, and they have to qualify for Medicaid and end up going to Medicaid homes like your home. Is that correct?
Yes, Representative Mizuno. After they spend all their money, then they apply for Medicaid, and that's when they transfer them to our homes, which is so sad for the clients because, transfer, they could die for transfer traumas.
Transfer trauma, yeah. Okay. Thank you, President Tan. Chair Bellotti, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Mizuno. Wonderful questions. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Representative Kobayashi?
For DOH, comment was made by the last testifier for, quote, a need for stiffer penalties, unquote. Do you see that?
Yes, we do.
Stiffer than $1,000?
More than $1,000?
That's what I assume is mentioned.
Well, any amount that would set a precedent and get the attention of these unlicensed care homes would be appreciated. This bill isn't asking for that $1,000 amount to be raised, but we would not be opposed to that $1,000.
What would the amount be, you think? That would be a real deterrent.
Wow. Well, let me focus on the bill first and answer your question, if you don't mind. Please indulge me, Chair. The current part of the statute that we want to repeal starts out at $100 per day.
Yep.
There's no way that's sufficient. As the testifier mentioned, this is something that's easy for the operator to pay. Now, what happens, or what can happen with these homes, is that in the first violation, when we catch them, not only do we assess the penalty, but we require them to close down. And when they close down, they can move to another place and reopen. That might become the second violation. And if they move again, that could become the third violation. So it just kind of goes on and on. We think we need to get their attention right from the beginning. $1,000 a day, or up to $1,000 a day, would be the most appropriate. We could go upwards of up to 5,000, up to 10,000, whatever figure, because that would certainly get their attention. It would also be perhaps even a better remedial approach for any home that's collecting $40,000, $50,000 a month from their clients to pay a much higher penalty. I hope that answers your question.
So what's the higher penalty?
I beg your pardon?
What would be the higher penalty that you suggest, or might suggest?
Well, quite frankly, I haven't given that a lot of thought, but if it's over $1,000, it could be $2,000, $5,000, et cetera. What we have to be careful about is that, notwithstanding that these unlicensed homes are violating the law, they do have rights of appeal. And when we go to an appeal hearing, the appeals officer, or the hearings officer, will determine whether the fine is an appropriate amount, whether it goes into the punitive phase, or whether it's more remedial. So that's what becomes difficult as far as setting a much higher amount. But we would be open to any other higher amount. 5,000
May I ask
to
a
that.
follow-up question? In other states, do they have a similar kind of regulatory framework, and maybe can we look to them as to what other fines that they might have?
I can certainly look at what those other fines are, and I'll report back to you.
Okay.
It was mentioned that you netted $2.5 million. Is that what you collected or what you
That's
tried to collect?
That's what we assessed. So on a per day basis, we get for example.
So what did you collect?
We've collected about 125, mid $100,000 amount. The issue isn't how much we collect. The issue is to get their attention that we mean business, and to close them down. The current statute of $100 per day, again, as I mentioned, it's a slap on the wrist, barely that perhaps. And they'll perhaps move, when they close down, they'll perhaps move to another location. So we want to prevent that.
So you collected mid $100,000?
Correct.
Between 100,000 and 200,000? Thank you.
So one of the and just to expand on that, if I may, Chair, what has happened on a couple of occasions is that we've settled before going to hearing. Oftentimes, the operator may be concerned that they may lose, and the amount that we've assessed could be due. So they're very anxious to settle and move on.
Thank you. Well, we have members of the Finance Committee who are going to be looking at this later, so I appreciate these questions.
Sure,
Chair
thank
Mizuno.
you. I had a question for Keith Ridley. Thank you for being here, Mr. Ridley. So the fine, even if it was 1,000 or even up to 5,000 per day, that is up to the Department of Health to decide or determine. They don't have to charge the maximum fine. If they're working with the caregiver of the illegal care home, they could work out, like you mentioned, maybe a settlement. So even if we had the fines at $1,000 per day, it doesn't necessarily mean that Department of Health is going to charge that amount, the maximum amount. Is that correct?
Well, we may assess it, but we may not collect it.
Got it. One last question. These care homes, especially illegal care homes that are making $50,000, $60,000 a month, they're not paying any taxes. Is that correct?
We work with the Department of Taxation, and when we find homes, after we do our business, we refer them to the Department of Taxation.
I think it's a great
and,
idea.
And they determine whether taxes are being paid or not. If not, they'll take whatever action is under their authority.
Right, because my understanding, Mr. Ridley, is that the payments are cash money to a lot of these illegal care homes. And so I'm glad the Department of Taxation is looking into these illegal care homes also. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Mizuno. All right, members, great discussion. My inclination for this, members, is going to be to move this out as a HD1 with technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, and a effective date of June 30th, 3000. We'll be voting on this at 11:30 a.m. Okay? Members, next up is House Bill 914, also related to care facilities. We have testimony and support from the Department of Health.
Good morning, Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Keith Ridley, Chief of the Office of Healthcare Assurance, on behalf of the Director of Health. We're in strong support of this bill and will stand on our testimony, but I also wanted to point out that this bill is nearly identical to House Bill 1080, which is an admin bill. Either bill are acceptable. This particular bill does include a complaint investigation priorities section, which our office already uses, so we would not have any opposition to this. I also wanted to point out that the proposed language that any person, that we'd be able to investigate any person, these could include unlicensed or uncertified operators, or even former certified or licensed operators who refer to other unlicensed or uncertified homes. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have comments from Department of Human Services. Testimony and support from the Hawaii Substance Abuse Coalition. Testimony and support from Martha Randolph. Testimony Ms. Randolph is with the Kupuna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii in support. In opposition, Sherry R. Lynn. In opposition, Cheryl Balagat. In support, Daisy Ganantial. Testimony in support from the presidents of Adult Foster Home Care, United Caregivers of Hawaii, Community Home Care Association of Hawaii, Alliance of Professional Primary Care Administrators, and Providers Helping Hands of Hawaii. Numerous individuals who are presidents of those associations. Any other testifiers in the room? Any other testifiers on Zoom? No testifiers in Zoom. Members, any questions? Go ahead, Chairman Zino.
Keith Ridley from the Department of Health. I'm looking at the testimony by some of the care home operators, and they're saying that these illegal care homes don't pay taxes, there's no criminal background check, they don't have liability insurance for the patients, and there's no annual inspections by the Department of Health, just to name a few. Is that pretty much on point?
Well, they definitely don't get inspected by the Department of Health. We have found that some of these homes have business licenses, and whether or not they pay taxes would be up to Department of Taxation. Again, as we do with other unlicensed care homes or uncertified care homes, we work with the Department of Taxation for any follow-up that they may find warranted.
Thank you. I had a follow-up question, Chair Bellotti.
Go ahead,
Thank you, Keith, really, for being here. The other question I had is, for these unlicensed care homes, they don't have any annual inspections, and they don't even allow Department of Health to come and see their house. That's extremely unfair to the licensed, certified care homes that pay their fees to be certified, to be licensed, to have annual inspections. Most importantly, unannounced visits, because that truly shows if a care home is neglecting their patients. And the concern I have here is these unlicensed care homes do not have annual inspections, do not have any unannounced visits, unless by force of law you're coming in and investigating. Is that correct?
That is correct. Certainly, one of the concerns that the department has, and I think the public would have as well, is that if these unlicensed care homes are allowed to proliferate, then licensed home operators may find it to their advantage to surrender their license and not have inspections on an annual basis as well.
Excellent point. I understand there, according to some of the caregivers, there is a small exodus of legal, licensed, certified care homes getting out of industry, assuming that they're opening up illegal care homes, and we don't want that to happen. So thank you for your point.
Thank you.
Well taken. Thank you, Chair Bellotti.
One further question, Mr. Ridley.
Yes, Chair.
You know, in the text of the bill, healthcare or human services community is kind of a broad term. Is that a term found in other statutes? And I think the reason I raise it is that it was raised by our drafters. And it's curious to me that HSAC weighed in on this, also identifying that some of the terms were broad, because I get the sense that this is more targeted for care facilities, but does this then in fact cover like substance abuse facilities? And are you intending it to cover more of these broader types of facilities throughout the healthcare or human services community?
Yes, Chair. We purposely used very general language so that we could cover as many of players that might be available or might be doing this type of work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Members, any other questions?
Last question for Keith Ridley. Mr. Ridley, but the main focus is not the clean and sober homes, the homes that are caring for vets and what have you. It's really the unlicensed, uncertified care homes getting kupuna elderly patients and charging them $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month. Isn't that the target?
Yes, it is, Representative, and I appreciate that distinction. The department prefers to have as much authority as possible so that we at least have a chance to get in to some of these homes to see whether there's any violation. If I may, Chair, if you would indulge me, there are 4 criteria that for an arch to meet to be considered an arch. They have to provide 24-hour accommodations to someone not related to them who requires care for a fee. If they meet those 4 criteria, they're considered an arch. So having the authority to go in and conduct an investigation, those are the things that we look for. We look for evidence of that. If any one of those items is absent, then they don't qualify as an arch. And as a result, they would not be considered an unlicensed facility. But being able to get in the door and do that inspection is something that we really find necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Ridley. Thank you, Chair Bellotti.
Thank you, Chair. Members, no other questions or concerns. Members, this is a triple referral, so my recommendation is going to be to move this out as an HD1 with technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, as well as a defective date of June 30th, $3,000 to be able to continue the conversation. And I will note that there are some concerns that may be overly broad that needs to be examined in the committee report for the next committee. Thank you, members. That's going to be my recommendation, and we'll take that up at 11:30. Members, moving on to House Bill 872. This is a funding bill for the Hawaii Healthy Aging Partnership. Testimony and support, Department of Health.
I'm not as tall as Mr. Ridley. Good morning. My name is Caroline Kadeirao. I'm the Director of the Executive Office on Aging, and we stand in strong support of House Bill 872 for the Healthy Aging Partnership. This is a bill that provides an appropriation for both the Better Choices, Better Health program, which is a 6-week course that helps people to maintain and learn techniques so that they can manage their chronic diseases. It also provides for the Enhanced Fitness program, which is an exercise program that we provide in both counties of Maui and Kauai. And with the Better Choices, Better Health, the pre and post test data shows decrease in physician and emergency room visits, reduced pain, reduced fatigue, reduced shortness of breath and stress. And participants in Better Choices, Better Health save on average $654 in healthcare costs per year. Our Enhanced Fitness, the exercise program, really helps to keep people active, keep them healthy so that we can delay onset of chronic diseases. This is, again, asking for an appropriation, and we support this as long as it doesn't reduce or replace anything in the administrative budget. And these are good evidence-based prevention measures. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaderau. Testimony in support, Agency on Elderly Affairs, Ludvina Takahashi. Testimony in support, the Kapuna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Martha Randolph in support. In support, AARP Hawaii.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Audrey Suga Nakagawa. I am the Advocacy Director for AARP, and we stand in strong support of this program. This program has been in existence since 2003, really providing very cost-effective and programs that promotes good health and active aging for our seniors. During the time of COVID, they had to modify itself to becoming on a virtual form of programming for our kapuna, and it demonstrated to be very effective. But now, of course, now that the COVID restrictions are easing and people are getting back to in-person, I know that many of our kapuna are very excited to be part of that. ARP just recently had our listening sessions at the end of the year in 2022, and we visited all the islands, Kauai, Maui, Big Island, of course, Oahu. And during that time, we had members coming up to us and telling us how excited they were to be back to going to the Enhanced Fitness programs, especially in Kauai and Maui. So we know this is a very popular program. We love the fact that it's going to be hybrid, so it would accommodate those who can't maybe drive to these classes, but also who are still very cautious about the COVID situation, but also for those who like to come back in person. So we really greatly appreciate the opportunity to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a compilation of support from Pearl City Community Church, Mylene Ibera. Testimony and support from the PABIA, Policy Advisory Board on Elderly Affairs, Beverly Gotelli. Testimony and support, Paula Keel, which may be the wrong measure. Paula Keel. Testimony and support from Michio Tomioka, Naomi Sugihara, Paula Phillips, Sarah Yuan, Lori Suhako. Testimony and support from Claudette Maderos, which is a compilation of testimony. Testimony in support, I've already stated Lori Suhako. Audience members, anyone else in the audience to testify? Zoom, anyone else in Zoom to testify? Seeing none, members, questions? Seeing none, okay, moving on to the next measure, House Bill 278. This is Executive Office on Aging, Alzheimer's Disease Public Health Campaign. Again, another appropriation. Members, we have support with comments from Carolyn Catarao of the Executive Office on Aging.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. We stand in support of this as long as it doesn't replace or reduce anything in the administrative budget, and that just to understand that this would help to raise awareness, prevention, early prevention of Alzheimer's, and that we'd like to see this combined with what we're doing with our CDC, building our largest dementia-capable grant that we have in the office, on the Executive Office on Aging. So really working together on this measure so that we can move that forward. We would just want to state that we would probably be able to get this off the ground in the spring, because again, we'd have to procure for the funds and then get the awareness campaign off the ground. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. In support, ARP Hawaii.
So AARP also stands in support of this measure, and in 2018 we did a research across the country, and we know that almost nearly everyone knows the seriousness about the Alzheimer's disease or know of someone, whether it's in the family or a friend, who has the disease. But people still don't know the characteristics and the resources that are available to that. That was back in 2018, and we believe that's still the same today. So having this public health awareness campaign will really benefit our community so that they know where the resources are, understanding and demystifying what is Alzheimer's disease versus other forms of dementia, and that will really help educate our community. So thank you very much for the opportunity to testify in support of this bill.
Thank you. In support, Alzheimer's Association, Ron Shimabuku.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Ron Shimabuku from the Alzheimer's Association. I will say that we strongly support this measure. Thank you for hearing this proposal. So this bill would specifically urge the public to consult with their healthcare professionals when experiencing symptoms of memory loss and cognitive impairment. This is one of the earliest warning signs of future dementia. The latest preface data shows from 2020, 6.7% of those aged 45 and older report experiencing confusion or memory loss throughout, as of recent. Of that, more than 2/3 have not talked to their healthcare professional about it. New FDA-approved drug therapies are on the market, and more are coming on the horizon, which, our job here in the States is really to educate the public on really consulting with their healthcare professionals to potentially gain access to these therapies. So we do respectfully ask for your consideration to amend this bill to extend the appropriation over the course of multiple fiscal years to allow the Executive Office on Aging an opportunity to complement the public health campaign with resources from the CDC's Building Our Largest Dementia Infrastructure Act. With this, we strongly urge your favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shimabuku. We have UPW, Kamakana Kaimuloa, in support. Testimony in support, Hawaii Primary Care Association, Eric Abe. Testimony in support, Hawaii Family Caregiver Coalition, Gary Simon. Testimony in support, also from Alzheimer's Association, Ohad Amador. Testimony in support, Kapuna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Martha Randolph. Testimony in support, ILWU, Michael Victorino Jr. Testimony in support, Hawaii Ironworkers Stabilization Fund, Mel Kahele. Testimony in support, individual Nicholas Los Banos. Members, we have numerous individuals testifying in support of this important measure. Audience members, anyone in the room to testify? Members in Zoom, anyone to testify? Seeing none, members, questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to House Bill 838. Members, this is a bill for Long-Term Care Commission appropriation. We have first up Attorney General comments.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Deputy Attorney General Candace Park. The only concern we have with this bill is that it requires the College of Social Sciences and Public Policy to provide administrative support, and being that we would suggest that you put in the language that identifies this bill as a law of statewide concern in order to avoid any constitutional issues. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. This is certainly an issue of statewide concern. Comments, State Procurement Office. In support, Puna Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Martha Randolph. Testimony in support, AARP Hawaii.
ARP stands in support of this particular bill. Back in 2008, ARP played a real key role in establishing the initial Long-Term Care Commission, and since then, a report was submitted to the legislature in 2012. It's been over 10 years. It's not a bad idea right now to take a relook again to see where we are, what kind of recommendations were followed and implemented, made by this particular commission, and then looking forward to all the different trends. We still have a big problem with our long-term care system. We know it's been compounded with the COVID-19. We also know about the worker shortage that is just plaguing the entire industry, especially in long-term care. So having a commission that would help take a look at where we are at, where we're going to go, and start addressing more seriously about the long-term care financing issue, because it is still very unaffordable for many people. So thank you for this opportunity to support this bill.
Thank you. Testimony in support, Healthcare Association of Hawaii, Paige Heckathorn Choi, via Zoom.
Chair. Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Thank you. We'll stand on our testimony in support, echoing a lot of the points that the previous testifier made, especially in relation to making sure that there's adequate reimbursements for post-acute care. It would be good to get together and update what possible resources and programs we could be looking at to support the industry and to support the affordability for Hawaii residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Testimony in support, Aubrey Olson. Testimony from Dean Conan. Wonderful to see you here in the audience, Dean.
Chair Bellotti, Vice Chair, members of this committee, thank you so much. I'm Denise Conan, Dean of the College of Social Sciences, and I'm very honored to support this this measure. The College of Social Sciences stands ready to provide assistance. I would request, as stated in my testimony, that the administrative home be moved from the Public Policy Center to the Social Science Research Institute. The reason for that is within the Social Science Research Institute, we have two complementary programs. One is UHERO. Many of the issues involved here are financial in nature, and UHERO will be able to provide assistance for the economic impacts of measures. The other is our collaboration, our health policy initiative that is joint with the MedQuest division and the Department of Health and Department of Human Services. And long-term care does have aspects of overlap with Medicare and Medicaid. They are Medicare does not cover long-term care, but there are linkages and areas to explore as well. I also want to note that I heard from our interim dean of JABSOM, and the medical school also is very supportive of this measure and of the college taking a lead, and they will also assist in anything we can do to support this commission. Mahalo.
Thank you, Dean, and thank you for coming forward and offering a home for this, because I think it's really critical, and I know that the work you folks are doing is very important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I missed Aubrey Olson, I believe. Audience members, any late testifiers?
The Executive Office on Aging, we apologize, we don't have written testimony. I'd just like to say that I support what's been stated, and like you said, long-term care is an issue. Financing, huge issue, that, like Audrey had mentioned, that we stand in support and would be like to see this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cotterell. You don't have to do anything formal, just write on a little paper testimony and support for EOA, and that would be sufficient for our committee purposes. Thank you. Members, any questions, comments, concerns, any questions? All right, seeing none, let's move to House Bill 1263. This is our ABLE Savings Program, members. Another very good bill that's moving. First up, we have Ms. Cotterell, Executive Office on Aging and Support.
We'll stand on our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the State Council on Developmental Disabilities in support.
Good morning, chairs, committee members. Danger Bartolos, Executive Administrator for the Hawaii State Council on Developmental Disabilities. Thank you so much for hearing this bill. We stand in strong support of House Bill 1263. Interest of time, I'll stand on our testimony, but here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have testimony in support, Hawaii Disability Rights Center, Mr. Lou Erdeshik. Testimony in support, Fuller Lives Disability Housing Advocacy, Sue Burke. We have testimony in support from 3 individuals, Annette Menti, Ann Yabusaki, and Ashley Brown. Any other testifiers in the audience? Any testifiers in Zoom? Oh, no, yes, please come forward.
I think I remember you, Chair. I saw you on Zoom one time while we were Daintria. Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and committee members. My name is Kylie Swan. I'm in strong support of HB 263. My mom helped me open my ABLE account. It was very confusing for me to do myself. Not everyone has a mom like mine to help them. Please pass this bill. Thank you, and I have any question you may have. Don't be shy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other testifiers? Any questions? I have a question. I'll ask you. So
What?
you have been able to open up an ABLE account.
Yes, I do.
And how does that help you in your daily life and your mental well-being, looking into the future?
I helped my mom, and I helped budgeting. It was pretty fun. And did you want to read anything else?
When you save for your Japan trip, you're able
I save my Japan trip because me and mom always go to Japan during the summer, and I have a lot of fun. I go to Tokyo Tower. It's very fun to go out in the community.
And does this give you a sense of financial well-being to be able to have this kind of account?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here.
Chair, I had a question
Go
for
ahead.
Kylie.
Yes.
Kylie, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I can see just by your confidence, you're a leader. And I
Yes,
think
I
you're
am.
here to inspire so many more to reach their dreams. So thank you for being here.
welcome.
Please continue with your platform to share with others that they can reach their full potential. But again, Kylie, thank you for being here. I've seen you at some of the other hearings. Thank you. You always give great, insightful information. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much.
Chair Bellotti, thank you.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Thank you, sir. All right, we will move on to House Bill 871. We have 2 more measures on this agenda, members. This is relating to service animals. We have support with comments from the Department of Human Services. Comments from Civil Rights Commission.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. Heather McVeigh with the Hawaii Civil Rights Commission. We're just offering some comments. We had some concerns on the language, but we'll stand on our testimony. I'll be here for questioning. Thank you.
Comments, Phil Guidry, American Kennel Club. Testimony in opposition, Ms. Tina Yamaki from Retail Merchants of Hawaii.
Aloha and good morning. I'm Tina Yamaki with the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. While we understand the importance of this bill, we are opposed to it, especially the language regarding retailers. We have very limited amount of space for display and pricing, and as you don't know already, every inch is kind of equated to an amount. And having to put signage and everything, it's a little bit harder for us with the space, especially when you talk about a minimum of 12 points. A lot of our POS system, our point of sale system, our cash register receipts cannot handle a 12-point font. You'd probably see a couple words on every line, and your receipt is going to be longer than the ones you get from some of our stores. It's a little harder for that. It's also going to put a cost onto retailers because now we're going to have to print these signs. You can't just handwrite them. You know, some of them do, especially if they're a mainland company, they do have corporate rules. And anytime you touch retail, no matter how big or small it is, it's going to be passed on to the customer. And this would also, I'm sorry, losing my place here. This would also include all pet apparel and accessories because it doesn't specify out that it has to say emotional support animal on there. And so that's a lot of products. And if we were to put signage on every product, like a sticker or something, we can foresee our customers taking that off too. And also too, having to have our cashiers put a signage in with the receipt. There's also going to be human error sometimes too. And right now, businesses cannot ask for proof if it's a service animal or a support animal. We just have to take it at face value. So that's going to be very hard. What you're probably going to see is a lot of people either purchasing these items more online that doesn't have ties to Hawaii, or you're just going to see them turning them over to to service animals. So we are opposed to this bill for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yamaki. Testimony in support, Cheryl Burkhart. Testimony in support, James Kennedy. Testimony in support, Peter Fritz. Comments, Susan Picola Davis. Members, audience members, any late testifiers? Any testifiers in Zoom? I believe I identified it all. Members, any questions? Go ahead, Representative Kobayashi.
For, let's see, I guess Civil Rights Commission. Is there any other state or any other jurisdiction that has passed something that we can follow as a guide or a model?
You know, I'm not sure on that, but I'd be happy to take a look and report back.
I mean, I would assume there is. I mean, this distinction between service animal and emotional support animal must be a nationwide issue.
Yes, I would concede that for sure. And I think the issue that we had with the language really is that there may be some unforeseen outcomes when you're not sure when an animal is sold, whether it would eventually become an emotional support animal or a service animal. There's not any particular way that a service animal needs to be trained to do a particular behavior that meets the needs of an individual with a disability. So there's just a lot of unknowns in the way the language is drafted here. We would also note that
No, I mean, that's why
yeah,
I think we should follow something else that's already established and perhaps has worked. I don't know what can work, but.
Yeah, we do appreciate and agree that there is a serious problem with folks abusing labeling that's incorrect and misidentifying emotional support animals or pets as service animals, and service animals are not pets. And we also brought, I'll just mention since I'm here, that the language is a little misleading because it notes that the animals themselves have the rights, but we wanted to make it clear that the person, the individual with a disability, is the one with the right to use a service animal as a need of their disability. So that's something that could be addressed as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, do you have language to that point in your testimony?
We do address that, yes, and I'd be happy to speak further about that.
Well, is the language, the amending language, in your testimony?
We did not provide any language for that specifically, but we did noted that the rights follow the person and not the animal. So I'm sorry, I guess my answer was no.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Yamaki. I'm very sensitive listening to your comments, and I can understand how this is going to be difficult, especially because the products are so broad. Would it help if we said that we took out tag, vest, leash, or harness? Because then we really focus on anyone who's selling the certificate or identification, which is very specific to
Yeah.
the animal. Would that help you?
Yes, because that would probably take out all of retail, but it also depends what kind of ID tags you're talking about, because, I mean, as a former pet owner, you kind of want to have the tag in case lost returned to, you have the pet's name and your number on the back, so that would also be considered a tag.
But if this is supposed to be about getting information across to the person who has an emotional support animal with this information, then really the certificate and identification is kind of the thing that really is going to be connected to that kind of service animal.
Yeah, but as a retailer or a business, we can't ask them to see that's proof of certificate. That's kind of against the law. Or if it's a service animal, we can't ask them for, do you have their certificate or proof for that?
No, but this
Yeah.
is for that notice, right? So the measure is saying that a person or business that sells or provides a certificate identification will then need to provide in that written receipt
Yeah.
this information. So if we limit the
The
products, then that helps address your situation.
Yeah, as long as the tag is specific for comfort animals. It says, because if not, it broadens it out again to those ID tags and things.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Yamaki. Members, any other questions? Members, on this one, again, this has 3 referrals. This is something of interest to members in our body. So my recommendation is going to be to pass out an HD1 that at page 3 requires the notice for only certificates and identifications, and takes out tag, vest, leash, or harness. So then this hopefully will help on the burden but still provide that needed information out to the service animal owner. And then adding a savings clause, since the bill establishes fines for violations, any tech amendments identified by HMSO and a defective date of June 30th, 3,000, to be able to continue the conversation on this measure. Also in the committee report, I will ask that it be noted the concern raised by Hawaii Civil Rights Commission, and that the next committee take a look at amending language to address that issue. So that's going to be my recommendation, and we'll take that up at 11:30. Okay, members, last measure, House Bill 1433, relating to behavioral health crisis stabilization beds. We have testimony with comments from Department of Health.
Hello and good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Belinda Danielson with Department of Health, Adult Mental Health Division. The department appreciates the intent of this measure and offers comments and amendments, and we stand on our testimony, and I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. Support with comments, Hawaii Primary Care Association. Testimony and support, Hawaii Substance Abuse Coalition. Testimony and support, Catholic Charities Hawaii. Any other testifiers in the room? Any testifiers in Zoom? Seeing none, members, any questions? Seeing none, that is our testimony for this agenda. So members, it is now 10:33. We will convene at 11:30 a.m. for DM on this bill. Audience members, you're welcome to stay, but you can also watch via the House YouTube channel. Otherwise, we are in recess. Good morning. Members, we are on our 11:30 amended notice of decision-making agenda. First up is House Bill 517. This is relating to health data sharing. Members, this is quite a bill that's creating a little bit of a lot of discussion in the community. My recommendation is going to be to draft a House Draft 1. Anywhere in the bill where it says Stakeholder Advisory Group, we are going to change it just to Working Group. For the timeline, members of this data framework, exchange framework, at page 3, I'm going to change the date to September 1st, 2030. On page 4, September 1st, 2030. On page 5, September 1st, 2030. On page 6, September 1st, 2032. At line 2, at line 5, 2034. At line 9, 2034. Members, I'm going to keep the dates on page 7 as is, because it's going to presuppose that the working group is actually going to be taking effect now. So that date on page 7, line 9, will remain at September 1st, 2024. And at line 16, it will be September 1st, 2023 to advise, and I'm going to insert the language, advise on legislation developing and implementing the Hawaii Health Data Exchange Framework. Members, I'm then going to defect the overall date to June 30th, 3000, and any tech amendments recommended by HMSO. And in the committee report, members, as we were looking at what California was doing, I'm going to ask that in the committee report that it is our understanding that it was an appropriation of $250 million to be able to accomplish what California was going to do. And so this is not an insignificant amount of money that is being requested for this effort. Members, any questions? Concerns, comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 517, Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato?
Aye.
Representative Iligan?
Aye.
Representative Kobayashi?
Aye.
Representative Mizuno?
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto? Aye. Representative Garcia?
No.
No vote for Rep. Garcia. Chair recommendations adopted.
Members, House Bill 955, this is our midwifery bill. Members, there is an important discussion that's going on in the community, so what I'm going to do with this bill is we're going to amend the purpose section and cut out much of the purpose section but retain on page 1, lines 1 through 8, as well as page 4, lines 13 to 20 with the appropriate change to identify that the date is going to be extended to July 1st, 2025. Members, we are going to keep section 2, which identifies this as sovereign's law, as we have sovereign here in the community, and I would like to acknowledge her. At page 6, we're going to change the date to July 1st, 2025. And then I'm going to put an overall defective date of June 30th, 3000. And for the next committee members, there was no time to look into this, but we're going to ask them to look at Oregon and any other state laws that provide various guardrails and safety measures for birth attendants. Members, any questions? And any tech amendments identified by HMSO? Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none?
Comment, Chair.
Go
Just
ahead.
want to say thank you so much for hearing the bill, and with the whole chance of my body, my choice, this bill is a step in the right direction for bodily autonomy. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, any other comments, questions, or concerns? adopted.
Voting on HB 955, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting all members present. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Members, House Bill 1404 relating to Community Court Outreach Project. Members, this is a work in progress. We need to ensure that this continues to it's still a pilot program in the city and county of Honolulu. So I'm going to adopt amendments from HMSO identifying that. There's a lot of questions about how much detail of the program should be in this measure. So I'm going to ask that the next committee take a look at the MOA and procedures. But we're going to keep essentially the measure intact and add a defective date of June 30th, 3000. Members, questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1404, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. All members present. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, House Bill 1442 relating to rehabilitation. Members, this is a large measure that's really touching upon the issue of mental health, treatment, and homelessness in our community, and builds upon the pilot project that we undertook actually during the pandemic and has shown some positive results. Members, my recommendation is going to be to do a House Draft 1 that adopts the recommendations, recommended amendments of the judiciary. And then members, at the sections on pages 18, 19, and 20, where it identifies the period of time for the ACT orders to be in place, I'm going to insert the period time of no more than 2 years. No more than 2 years. This reflects one of the majority package measures that we're going to be taking up next. So I'm going to integrate that into this bill and then add a defective date of July 1st, 3000. July 1st, 3000. And January 1st, sorry. I'm looking at the date. Members, I'm sorry. It's July 1st, 3023 and January 1st, 3024. And that any tech amendments identified by HMSO. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1442, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? All members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Members, House Bill 950, this is a majority package bill that really is just focused on that 2-year period. So Chair's recommendation is going to be to pass this out as a HG1 with a June 30th, 3000 vote. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 950, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? All members vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, the remaining measures on this 11:30 a.m. agenda, House Bill 1122, House Bill 1154, House Bill 1155, and House Bill 1156, all relate to the ACT process. We're going to hear a few more bills on Friday that's also related to the ACT process. So I'm going to move these measures for decision-making to next Wednesday, February 15th, to our 11:30 a.m. agenda. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns on that set of bills? Seeing none, members, turning to our 8:30 a.m. agenda. Okay, the 8:30 a.m. agenda, where I said that we would be reconvening these bills for decision-making. House Bill 1302. Members, this is the noise pollution bill. I'm going to insert a defective date of June 30th, 3000, blank out the appropriation amount, add any technical amendments identified by HMSO. Note in the committee report for the next committee to consider if it is better appropriately to be placed in Chapter 711-1101, and move that portion of Part 1 and make it a part of the pilot program that is Part 2. So we are not going to codify Part 1 of it, Part 1 of this bill. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1302, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, all is vote aye. Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, we are going to defer House Bill 1201 to Wednesday of next week at 11:30 a.m. House Bill 1245 relating to ambulances. Members, there is already a blank appropriation date. If not, we're going to add one. Insert a defective date of June 30th, 3,000. Also, insert into the committee report that the ask is for $1.6 million pursuant to the DOH, and ask the DOH to provide language to the next committee to look at cost sharing for the ongoing operating expenses of this ambulance should it become permanent. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Go ahead.
Is cost sharing applied to only, quote, this ambulance or the whole Maui system?
It would only be to this ambulance, right? So members, what we're doing is there has been a conversation about how the cost sharing should occur. And cost sharing does not occur currently. So really this is about how do we go moving forward, and it will be more prospective as we go forward. Comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none.
Voting on HB 1245, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, for House Bill 1255, Chair's recommendation is to do a House Draft 1 to defect the date to June 30th, 3,000, any tech amendments if identified by HMSO, and to move this bill forward for further consideration. Comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1255, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, House Bill 982 relating to funding for the Department of the Attorney General funding enforcement. My recommendation is going to be to blank out the money amounts in both sections and to insert those into the committee report for the next committee. Also, any technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style identified by HMSO, and a defective date of June 30th, 3,000. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 982, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, moving to the 9:45 a.m. agenda from today that we had deferred to 11:30 a.m. On House Bill 1081. It was a 9:45 a.m. agenda from today. The 9 o'clock was the egg, and we've already voted on that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so 9:45 a.m. agenda. House Bill 1081. Members, my recommendation is to insert any technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, and to add a defective date of June 30th, 3,000. Okay? Any questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1081, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
House Bill 914 relating to health. My recommendation is to do tech amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, a defective date, and to instruct the next committee to look at whether the healthcare or healthcare or human services community language in the bill needs to be tweaked and made less vague and more targeted. Okay. And I said defective date of June 30th, 3,000. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 914, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
House Bill 872 relating to the Hawaii Healthy Aging Partnership Program. Chair's recommendation is to pass a HD1 with a defective date. There's already a blank appropriation amount. Members, comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 872, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Members, I'm going to move decision-making for House Bill 278 to Friday of this week at 11:30 a.m. Members, there's another Alzheimer's bill we're hearing on Friday, so I want to move those two together. House Bill 838 relating to the Long-Term Care Commission. My recommendation is to move this to the College of Social Sciences per the University of Hawaii's testimony, and a defective date of June 30th, 3000. Members, any questions? Go ahead.
I think it was the Social Science Research Institute of the College of Social Sciences.
Yes, I will defer to my vice chair for that information. So we'll look to the testimony from UH to identify the appropriate place. It's not the Public Policy Center, but the Institute. Okay?
Voting on HB 838, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendations adopted.
House Bill 1263, members. Chair's recommendation is to move this with a defective date of June 30th, 3000. No tech amendments. Questions, comments, or concerns? Are we? Chair? Vice Chair?
Voting on HB 1263, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair's recommendations adopted.
Members, House Bill 871 relating to service animals. Chair's recommendation is to pass this out with clarifying language at page 3 saying that a person or business that sells or provides a certificate identification tags that identify the animal as an emotional support animal shall provide written notice. Include a defective date of June 30th, 3000, and any tech amendments identified by HMSO, and a savings clause also identified by HMSO. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 871, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Members, I'm going to move House Bill 1433 to Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. agenda of next week, as that will be taken up with all of our other ACT bills. I believe that's it for our 11:30 a.m. agenda. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, we're going to recess and then reconvene or open up the 11:40 agenda. Adjourn. Now we are opening up the 11:40 a.m. agenda. Members, taking up House Bill 1097 and House Bill 70. Members, we are going to defer these two measures to Wednesday next week at 11:30 a.m. Members, on House Bill 2017, Chair's recommendation to move this bill forward. 1217. We are going to add amendment to page 10 and clarify that on-site is going to be the physical grow location. We're also going to have any technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style identified by HMSO. A defective date of June 30th, 3000. Members, any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1217, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair's recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, we had a number of bills relating to reforms to the dispensaries. So I am going to I'm going to defer House Bill 696 and move that content of 696 into House Bill 1082 with those recommendations. And also take House Bill 1218 and defer that measure and put the contents of 1218 into 1082. So this is going to be a major reform bill, members. House Bill 1082 that includes the contents of 1218, 696, and 1082. These are all necessary amendments and reforms to maintain and strengthen the medical cannabis regulatory system. Members, any questions, comments, or concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1082, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes? Seeing none, Chair recommendation is adopted.
Okay, members, the final bills were a little bit more difficult. I'm going to move out House Bill 1219 with a defective date of June 30th, 3000. Any tech amendments identified by HMSO. And that's it, members. Questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on HB 1219, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Any reservations or noes?
Reservations.
Reservations for Rep. Garcia. All others vote aye. Chair recommendations adopted.
Members, House Bill 516 was a difficult measure, but after several conversations, and even though it would make sense for naturopathic physicians to perhaps be certifying physicians, at this point in time, I believe Hawaii would be the first one that would identify naturopathic physicians. So at this point, we're going to defer this and allow for more conversations to happen on this one. Members, on House Bill 957, this is relating to terminally ill patients, and as much as I would like to pass this, and again, I've had experience with hospice members who have used medical cannabis. Right now, at this time, the proposal that has been implemented in California is only 1 month old. And so there's a lot of conversations that are happening. We will watch California carefully. The person who had helped author the California bill has reached out to my office, and so we will engage conversations with them. But at this time, we're going to defer that measure. And members, at House Bill 734, again, I think this was something that we need to consider. If we need to find where in the statutes where we can convert the term marijuana to cannabis, but because of the current federal handling of marijuana, this is a difficult measure to pass. So Chair's recommendation is to also defer this bill. All right, before I adjourn, I believe I've taken everything up on all of our agendas. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. We'll see everyone on Friday. We are adjourned.